Hey there. Are you ready to explore some fascinating ideas about love?
I think we're all ready for that.
Well, today we're going to be diving into Plato's Symposium.
A classic.
It is. It's this philosophical dialogue that takes place at a dinner party, and each guest gives a speech praising Eros, the god of love. It's not your typical philosophical treatise.
No, it's more like a lively dinner party conversation.
Right.
Full of debate, mythical tales.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of humor.
It is. It's a fun one to read. So we're not just getting one definition of love here.
No.
We're going to be hearing a whole spectrum of perspectives.
It's right. It's a real exploration. Like, what is love's nature? What's its purpose?
Yeah.
And where does it even come from? We're going to hear all these different voices on that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So first up is Phaedrus.
Phaedrus.
He makes a pretty bold claim right out of the gate. He says that love is the oldest of the gods, older even than time itself.
Wow.
What do you make of that?
That's fascinating because it really suggests that love is this primal force.
Yeah.
Something that is absolutely fundamental to existence. Phaedrus actually says that no one can even remember a time before love existed.
Right.
Not even the poets.
Right. And he uses all these examples of like Hesiod,
Yeah.
Parmenides. It's almost like he's building this legal case
He is.
for love's seniority in the pantheon of gods. But it's more than just an argument about age, though, right?
Right, absolutely. For Phaedrus, love's ancient origins are completely tied to its power.
Right.
He sees love as the source of all honor, all courage, the driving force behind all these amazing heroic deeds.
I love it. And he brings up some really great examples like Alcestis sacrificing herself for her husband,
Right.
Achilles risking everything to avenge Patroclus.
Such great stories.
What kind of insights can we glean from these stories? What do you think?
Well, I think what's really interesting about those stories is that they highlight how love can inspire us to do these extraordinary things, like acts of selflessness,
Yeah.
bravery,
Yeah.
These are things that people wouldn't normally do.
Right.
Phaedrus contrasts these heroes with someone like Orpheus, who he sees as failing love's test
Right.
because he wasn't courageous enough to rescue Eurydice from the underworld.
Yeah.
It really begs the question, can love motivate us to do things that we never thought we were capable of?
Totally. Yeah. So for Phaedrus, love isn't just a feeling.
No.
It's a call to action.
Right.
It compels us to be noble, to behave in these virtuous ways. But does love always lead us down the right path? Can it be a source of negative actions as well?
That is such a crucial question, and that is exactly where Pausanias comes in. It's a more nuanced perspective.
Okay.
He throws us a little bit of a curveball here.
Okay.
He says that there are actually two kinds of love.
Two kinds of love. Okay. Ancient Greece had their own relationship advice column. I'm into it. Break it down for me. What are these two loves?
Okay. So we've got common love and we have heavenly love.
Okay.
Common love, he says, is really fixated on the body,
Okay.
like physical gratification.
Yeah.
It's really driven by just raw desire, and it doesn't discriminate. Like anyone is a target. You might even say it's kind of like what we would call lust today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So common love is more superficial, more impulsive. And then what about heavenly love? What's that?
Heavenly love is on a whole other level. It is directed towards the mind, the soul. It's about virtue. It's about growth. And it's about really deep connection.
I like it. So he's suggesting that it's not just who you love, it's how you love.
That's right. It's the intention behind it. That makes all the difference.
So that makes you wonder, what kind of love is more prevalent in our modern world? Do we see more common love or do we see more heavenly love? What do you think?
That's a really good question. That's for you to think about.
Yeah.
What kind of love do you see in your own life? What about in the world around you?
Yeah.
And more importantly, what kind of love do you want to cultivate?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got love as this ancient, powerful force, and now we've got these two different types of love. But hold on to your hats. Our next guest, Eryximachus, brings a completely different perspective to the table.
Eryximachus. Eryximachus is a doctor.
He is. He's a doctor.
And because of that, he sees love as a force that goes way beyond human relationships.
Okay.
He argues that it's a fundamental principle that is woven into the fabric of the entire universe.
He sees love everywhere, not just between people.
Everywhere. Give me an example, you say. I'll give you a few.
Okay, lay it on me.
He sees it in the human body, in music, in the changing seasons, even in the movements of the cosmos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a cosmic perspective.
Right.
So he's saying that love is this huge unifying force connecting everything.
That's exactly it. And because he's a doctor, he uses the human body as a metaphor a lot.
Okay.
And he explains how the balanced interaction of all these different elements, which he calls loves, lead to health. And if things are imbalanced, that results in disease.
I see. So finding harmony within ourselves and with the world around us, that's key to well-being.
That's a great takeaway.
Not just physical well-being, but every aspect.
Every aspect of life.
Yeah.
And it really challenges us to think about what are those opposing forces in our lives? You know, how can we find ways to reconcile them? How can we create a more harmonious existence?
We've gone from love as the oldest god to the source of heroic deeds to this huge universal force for harmony.
I know, right?
I'm ready for whatever mind-bending concept comes next. What's next?
Well, get ready for a really wild ride because Aristophanes is our next speaker. And he takes us on this mythical journey to try to explain why we crave love so much. And it is a story you won't forget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
A mythical explanation for our desire for love. Okay. I'm ready. Lay it on me. What's Aristophanes' take?
All right. So Aristophanes says that originally humans, get this, were round.
Right.
Yeah. Round creatures. Imagine like 2 faces, 4 arms, and 4 legs all rolled into this one powerful being.
Okay, that's definitely different from the human figure we see in our anatomy textbooks.
It is, yeah.
So what happened to these spherical superhumans? Why aren't we all rolling around with 4 arms and legs today?
Okay, so they were really powerful, like incredibly powerful.
Okay.
And according to Aristophanes, they got a little arrogant, a little too big for their britches, and they challenged the gods.
Oh, no.
I know.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea, right? So Zeus, he was not having it. He decided to teach them a lesson.
Okay.
And he split them in half.
Whoa.
As punishment.
Talk about a drastic measure, yikes. It's like the ultimate breakup. But how does this myth connect to our desire for love? How does he tie that in?
Well, that's the brilliant part. Aristophanes argues that ever since this, like, primordial split, humans have been wandering the earth, searching for their other half.
Yeah.
You know, that missing piece to make them whole again. And he says that this is the root of our deep longing for love and connection.
So we're all just like walking around as mismatched puzzle pieces, just desperately seeking our perfect fit. It's fascinating, but it's also kind of unsettling.
It is. It's a little unsettling, yeah.
Do you think this myth suggests that we are destined to find the one? Or could it be interpreted in a broader sense?
That's a great question. It raises some really big questions about what human connection even is.
Yeah.
You know, like, are we searching for this one soulmate to complete us?
Right.
Or can we find that wholeness in different ways, through different relationships with friends, family, or even like a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves?
Yeah.
It's something to really think about.
It is. Okay, so we've heard from the poet, we've heard from the lawmaker, we've heard from the doctor.
Yeah.
And now the comedian.
Right.
Each offering their own unique perspective on love. But there's one guest at this philosophical party we haven't heard from yet, and it's the one I'm most curious about.
Yes.
Socrates. Always the philosophical heavyweight.
He is.
He steps up and he gives what a lot of people consider the most profound, the most influential speech of the whole symposium.
Wow.
And true to form, he doesn't just give us his own opinion.
Right. Of course not. He never does.
No. He tells us about a conversation he had with a wise woman named Diotima.
Classic Socrates, deflecting the spotlight, attributing the wisdom to someone else.
Right.
But I'm all ears. What did Diotima have to say about love?
Okay, so Diotima gives us this radical reinterpretation of love. And she starts by saying that love is not a god at all.
It's not a god.
No, it's a daemon.
A daemon. Okay, that's not a term we hear every day. What does it mean in this context?
Okay, so in Greek mythology, a daemon is basically a spirit that acts as a bridge between the human and the divine world. It's like this messenger, this go-between, helping us communicate with the realm of the gods. I see. So it's not this all-powerful deity, but it's more like a go-between.
Right.
A translator of sorts, connecting us to something greater.
Exactly. And Diotima goes on to say that love is driven by this deep desire for beauty. But it's not just about finding beautiful things to possess, right? It's about seeking the everlasting possession of the good.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not about the superficial acquisition of beauty, but a deeper understanding of what true beauty even is and how it can elevate us.
That is a great way to put it.
Wow.
Yeah. To really illustrate this point, Diotima describes this concept known as the ladder of love.
A ladder of love. Okay, now I'm picturing this as some kind of Renaissance painting.
I know, me too.
So break it down for me. What are the steps involved in this ladder?
Okay, so imagine starting on the bottom rung.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you're appreciating the beauty of physical forms,
Hmm.
like a beautiful person, a beautiful object, anything that really appeals to your senses.
Mhm.
But as you go up, you move beyond this superficial beauty and you start to appreciate the beauty of the mind, like intelligence, knowledge, virtue.
So it's a shift from the external to the internal, from just appearances to a deeper appreciation of character, intellect.
Exactly. And it keeps going. You get to a level where you can appreciate the beauty of laws, institutions, recognizing the order and harmony that they can bring. And finally, you get to the highest rung, which is the contemplation of beauty absolute.
Beauty absolute. That sounds pretty profound. What exactly is this ultimate form of beauty?
It is profound. It's the purest essence of beauty that exists beyond any specific form or manifestation. And it's the ultimate goal of the lover's journey.
Wow, I'm starting to see how this ladder of love goes way beyond finding a romantic partner. It's a lifelong pursuit of wisdom. It's a deeper understanding of beauty in all its forms.
It is.
A quest that ultimately leads us to a connection with something divine.
That's exactly the point that Dayatim is making. Love in its truest form is about transcending these limitations of the physical world and connecting with something much, much greater than ourselves.
We've covered so much ground already. Love is the oldest god, a source of heroic deeds, a huge universal force for harmony. We even explored this mythical origin of our desire for love. And now we've got this ladder of love, this spiritual path.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's kind of a lot to unpack. This party is getting pretty wild.
And the party isn't over yet. Just when we think we've heard it all, we have a new guest making this grand entrance.
Oh.
Enter Alcibiades.
Alcibiades.
This is a prominent Athenian statesman, general, and, kind of a notorious party animal.
Okay.
And he arrives in true Alcibiades fashion. A little
what?
a little worse for wear.
Okay, I'm picturing him stumbling in, tipsy, ready to shake things up.
Yeah.
Tell me more about Alcibiades. What's his connection to Socrates and the other guests?
So Alcibiades is a close companion of Socrates, but their relationship is, shall we say, complicated.
Oh.
He's fascinated by Socrates, but also really frustrated by him. Think of it as that classic, love-hate dynamic.
Ah, the student-mentor relationship, full of admiration and tension. I've been there.
We've all been there.
So what happens when Alcibiades crashes the party? Paint me a picture.
Okay, so picture this. He bursts in, crowned with ivy and violets, totally drunk, and demands to crown Agathon as the, quote-unquote, fairest and wisest among them.
Wait, hold on. Isn't Socrates supposed to be the wisest one in the room?
You would think.
This is already getting good.
I know, right? But here's the thing. Alcibiades, even though he's completely intoxicated, he gives a speech that reveals this really deep, even if it's conflicted, understanding of Socrates.
Okay, I need to hear this. What does he have to say about Socrates?
All right. So he starts by comparing Socrates to a statue of Silenus.
Okay.
One of those figures of a satyr, often like comical and kind of grotesque.
Yeah, that's a rather unconventional comparison. Not the most flattering way to describe the great Socrates.
Right. But there's a deeper meaning here. He's pointing out that these Silenus statues often have these hidden compartments inside. And these compartments contain images of the gods.
Okay. So he's suggesting that beneath Socrates' unassuming exterior, even his, kind of unattractive appearance, there lies this divine wisdom.
Exactly. And he takes it even further. He compares Socrates to Marsyas, the satyr who challenged Apollo to this music contest.
Oh, wow.
And while Marsyas charmed people with his flute playing, Alcibiades says that Socrates accomplishes the same thing, but with his words.
So he's saying that Socrates has this way of captivating and inspiring people with his speech. It's almost like a magical power to persuade and enlighten.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Alcibiades confesses that Socrates' words stir his soul in a way that no other speaker, not even Pericles, could.
Wow.
He feels drawn to Socrates, but he also feels kind of ashamed by him because he's recognizing his own shortcomings.
Yeah, so it's that push and pull.
Yeah.
Captivated by his brilliance, but also feeling exposed by it.
Exactly.
That's relatable. I think we've all been there, right?
We have.
Yeah.
And it gets even deeper. He actually admits that Socrates is the only person who has ever made him feel ashamed of his own life choices.
Wow. It's quite a statement. So Socrates is like this mirror reflecting Alcibiades' own, maybe unfulfilled potential,
It is.
and forcing him to kind of confront these shortcomings. I mean, that's got to sting a little bit, but it's also this powerful catalyst for growth, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I think that's the essence of Socrates as Alcibiades portrays him. Even if he is drunk, he represents this challenge to complacency, an invitation to really examine our lives and to strive for something bigger.
And how does Socrates respond to all of this? I mean, does he defend himself against these very kind of candid assessments?
Well, Socrates, ever the composed philosopher, takes it all in stride.
Yeah.
Doesn't get defensive. He doesn't refute anything Alcibiades is saying. He seems to actually kind of enjoy the attention, even if it is a little embarrassing.
That's so Socrates.
It,
Never one to shy away from a little self-deprecation. So where does the conversation go from here? Does anyone else get a chance to speak after this very dramatic entrance?
the symposium continues late into the night.
Or of course it does.
A lot more drinking, revelry,
Ah,
maybe a little more philosophical discussion.
you're right.
But Plato actually chooses to end the dialogue right there and kind of leaves us with this, really powerful, kind of ambiguous portrait of Socrates.
Okay, so we've explored this huge range of perspectives on love. From Phaedrus praising love as this oldest god, to Agathon's very idealized romantic vision of love, to Socrates' really profound philosophical insights. And then we have Alcibiades, who adds this whole other layer,
He does.
really highlighting Socrates' very unique and enigmatic personality.
Yeah.
It's been quite a whirlwind. What a party.
And that's the beauty of the symposium, wouldn't you say? It's not about finding a single definition.
Yeah.
It's about exploring these different facets, different lenses, revealing its complexity, the contradictions, and just how profound an influence it has on all of our lives.
And this approach makes it so much more engaging. It feels dynamic, thought-provoking, and incredibly relevant, even though it was written thousands of years ago.
It really is.
Yeah, it's like Plato is inviting us to this party.
Right.
We're eavesdropping on these conversations, and we're being asked to develop our own understanding of what love is.
That's a great way to put it.
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface here.
You are. And we've only just begun to unpack the symposium.
Oh.
Yeah. So in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to step back. We're going to look at the dialogue as a whole.
Okay.
What's the structure? What are the philosophical implications?
Mm.
And most importantly, what is its relevance for us today?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait to go even deeper. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get even more interesting.
They really are.
Okay, so we've heard from the poet, the lawmaker, the doctor, and now the comedian, each offering a unique perspective on love. But there's one guest at this philosophical party we haven't heard from yet, and it's the one I'm most curious about.
Oh, yeah.
Socrates.
Socrates, of course.
How he's a philosophical heavyweight.
He is. He always is. He steps up and delivers, what many consider to be the most profound and influential speech of the entire symposium.
Wow, okay.
And true to form,
Yeah.
He doesn't just offer his own opinion.
Right.
No. He recounts a conversation he had with this wise woman named Diotima.
Classic Socrates, always deflecting the spotlight, attributing the wisdom to someone else.
Exactly.
But I'm all ears. What did this Diotima have to say about the nature of love?
So Diotima's teachings offer this really radical reinterpretation of love. And she starts by claiming that love is not a god at all.
It's not a god?
No, but a daemon.
A daemon. Okay, that's not a term you hear every day. What does that even mean in this context?
Okay, so in Greek mythology, a daemon is basically a spirit that acts as this bridge between the human and the divine. So it's like a messenger or an intermediary.
Okay.
Helping us mortals to communicate with the realm of the gods.
Okay, so love's not this all-powerful deity, but more of a go-between, a translator almost.
Yeah.
Connecting us to something much greater.
Exactly. And Diotima goes on to explain that love is driven by this deep desire for beauty. But it's not simply about, finding beautiful things to possess.
Right.
It's about seeking what she calls the everlasting possession of the good, which is a concept that hints at something much more, spiritual.
So it's not about the superficial acquisition of beauty, but a deeper understanding of what true beauty is and how it can elevate us.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And to illustrate this, Diotima describes this concept known as the ladder of love.
The ladder of love. Okay. I'm really picturing this as a Renaissance painting now.
Me too.
So break it down for me. What are the steps involved in this ladder?
So imagine you're starting at the very bottom rung, Right.
Okay.
And here you're just appreciating beauty of physical forms, like a beautiful person, a beautiful object, anything that appeals to your senses. But then, as you ascend, you move beyond this superficial beauty and you start appreciating the beauty of the mind. Intelligence, knowledge, virtue, things like that.
So a shift from the external to the internal.
Exactly.
From appearances to a deeper appreciation of like character, intellect.
Exactly. And it keeps going.
Yeah.
As you continue climbing, you get to a level where you can appreciate the beauty of laws and institutions.
Oh.
Right? Recognizing the order, the harmony that they bring to society. And then finally, you reach this highest rung, which is the contemplation of what she calls beauty absolute.
Beauty absolute. That sounds pretty profound. What exactly is this ultimate form of beauty?
So beauty absolute represents the purest essence of beauty. It is just beyond any specific form or manifestation. And it's like the ultimate goal of the lover's journey.
So I'm starting to see how this ladder of love goes way beyond, like, finding a romantic partner. It's about a lifelong pursuit of wisdom, a deeper understanding of beauty in all its forms, a quest that ultimately leads us to connect with something divine.
That's exactly what Diotima is getting at. Love, in its truest form, is about transcending those limitations of the physical world and connecting to something much, much greater than ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from love as the oldest god to the source of heroic deeds to this universal force for harmony. We've even explored this mythical origin of our desire for love, and now this really profound concept of the ladder of love as the spiritual path.
That's a lot, I know.
This party's getting pretty wild.
And the party's not over yet. Just when we think we've heard it all, we have a new guest making a grand entrance.
Oh.
Enter Alcibiades.
Alcibiades.
He is a prominent Athenian statesman, a general, and kind of a notorious party animal.
Got it.
And he arrives in true Alcibiades fashion, a little worse for wear.
Okay, I'm picturing him stumbling in, a little tipsy, ready to, shake things up.
Exactly.
Tell me more about Alcibiades. What's his connection to Socrates and these other guests?
So Alcibiades is a close companion of Socrates. But their relationship is, shall we say, complicated. He's fascinated by Socrates, but also frustrated by him.
The student-mentor relationship, full of admiration and a little tension. I've been there.
We've all been there.
So what happens when Alcibiades crashes this party? Paint me a picture.
Okay, so picture this. He bursts in, crowned with ivy and violets, totally drunk,
Okay.
and demands to crown Agathon as the, quote, fairest and wisest among them.
Hold on. Isn't Socrates supposed to be the wisest one in the room? This is already getting good.
It is, right. But the interesting thing is that Alcibiades, even though he's intoxicated, he gives this speech that reveals this really deep, albeit conflicted, understanding of Socrates.
Okay, I need to hear this. What does he have to say about Socrates?
So he starts by comparing Socrates to, get this, a statue of Silenus.
Statue of Silenus.
Yes. One of those figures of a satyr, often, depicted as, like, comical, a little grotesque.
That's a rather unconventional comparison, not exactly the most flattering way to describe the great Socrates.
Right. But there's a deeper meaning here. Alcibiades is pointing out that these Silenus statues often have these hidden compartments inside them. And inside those compartments, you find images of the gods.
So he's suggesting that beneath Socrates' unassuming exterior, even maybe his unattractive appearance, lies this divine wisdom.
Exactly. And he takes it even further. He compares Socrates to Marsyas, the satyr who challenged Apollo to a music contest.
Oh, wow.
And while Marsyas charmed people with music from his flute, Alcibiades says that Socrates accomplishes the same feat with his words.
So he's saying that Socrates has this way of captivating, inspiring people with his speech, almost like a magical power to persuade and enlighten.
That's a great way to put it. And Alcibiades confesses that Socrates' words stir his soul in a way that no other speaker, not even Pericles, could.
Wow.
He feels drawn to Socrates, but also kind of ashamed, because he's recognizing his own shortcomings when confronted with Socrates' wisdom.
Right, so it's that push and pull, captivated by his brilliance, but also feeling a little exposed by it.
Exactly.
That's relatable. I think we've all been there.
We have.
And it gets even deeper. He actually admits that Socrates is the only person who's ever made him feel ashamed of his own life choices.
Wow.
That's quite a statement.
It is.
So Socrates is like this mirror reflecting back Alcibiades' unfulfilled potential, forcing him to confront these shortcomings.
Right.
I mean, it's got to sting a little, but it's also a powerful catalyst for growth, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I think that's the essence of Socrates as Alcibiades portrays him. Even if he is drunk, you know, he represents this challenge to complacency, like an invitation to really examine our lives and strive for something more meaningful.
And how does Socrates respond to all of this? I mean, does he try to defend himself against this, very candid assessment?
So Socrates, ever the composed philosopher, takes it all in stride.
Yeah.
He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't refute anything Alcibiades is saying. In fact, he seems to kind of enjoy the attention.
Of course.
Even if it's a little embarrassing.
That's so. Socrates, never one to shy away from a little self-deprecation. So where does the conversation go from here? Does anyone else get a chance to speak after this very dramatic entrance?
The symposium continues late into the night. More drinking, more revelry, maybe some more philosophical discussion. But Plato chooses to end the dialogue right there and kind of leaves us with this, very powerful and somewhat ambiguous portrait of Socrates.
Okay, we're back. We're back for this final part of our journey through Plato's Symposium. We've heard so many different perspectives on love. We've heard about the mythical origins. We've heard those deep philosophical insights. And then we ended with this really captivating portrait of Socrates by Alcibiades.
It's been quite the intellectual feast.
It has. It has.
And now it's time to kind of zoom out and look at the symposium as a whole.
Okay.
What can we learn? Not just about love, but about how Plato approaches knowledge and understanding in general.
But we're going meta now.
We are. We're analyzing the dialogue itself.
Where do we even begin with something as layered and as complex as the Symposium?
Well, I think a good place to start is by considering the structure. This isn't a dry academic treatise.
All right.
This is a dramatic dialogue. It's a work of literature that was really carefully crafted.
It's true. It feels like we're flies on the wall at this dinner party.
Exactly.
With all the interruptions and the jokes and even some drunken revelry.
Yes, especially from Alcibiades.
Of course.
Right. And I think this dramatic form is really important because it gets at how Plato wants us to think about philosophical ideas. He's not giving us one answer.
Right.
He's giving us these multiple voices, these conflicting viewpoints. And it's up to us to really wrestle with that complexity.
So it's less about just memorizing a definition.
Yeah.
And more about engaging in this active critical thinking.
Exactly.
Weighing these different perspectives, questioning our assumptions, and ultimately trying to come to our own understanding.
Right. He wants us to be active participants, not passive recipients.
I love that. And that approach makes the symposium so much more engaging. It feels dynamic, thought-provoking, and really just incredibly relevant, even though it was written thousands of years ago.
It really is. It really is. And another thing that I think is really important about this symposium is its focus on Eros, the god of love. But as we've seen, Eros isn't just about romantic or sexual desire.
No.
He represents something so much bigger, this yearning for beauty, for goodness, and ultimately for connection to something that's bigger than ourselves.
So he's kind of like this engine that's driving all human aspiration.
Right.
Like the fuel that pushes us towards knowledge, creativity, spiritual growth.
Beautifully put. And this brings us to one of the central themes, I think, of the entire symposium. The idea that love is a pathway to knowledge. I think back to Diotima's ladder of love. That ascent from the beauty of physical forms to the beauty of the mind, all the way up to the contemplation of beauty absolute.
It's such a powerful image. You start by appreciating that surface level beauty. Then you go deeper. You start recognizing beauty and intellect and character, and you arrive at this understanding of pure, transcendent beauty.
It's a beautiful image.
It is.
And that ladder, really represents that process of philosophical ascent.
Right.
It's this journey towards understanding the true nature of beauty and goodness.
And ultimately a journey towards self-realization and a connection to something divine.
Exactly. Now, I think it's also important to remember the historical context here. The symposium was written in ancient Athens, a society where same-sex relationships between men were not only accepted, they were often seen as this model for intellectual and spiritual mentorship.
It's clear that these men, these philosophers, these poets, these playwrights, they're really engaged with these questions of love and beauty and the pursuit of wisdom.
They are. And while, some of those norms and customs of ancient Athens might seem a little strange to us today, I think the underlying themes of the symposium definitely transcend time and place.
I totally agree. This longing for connection, the pursuit of meaning and purpose, the desire to understand this complex thing that we call love, these are universal human experiences that are just as relevant today as they were back then.
And that's exactly what makes the symposium so enduring. It speaks to something really fundamental about what it means to be human.
It's like this ancient text is holding up a mirror to our own lives. It's asking us, what are we searching for? What do we truly value? And how can we cultivate love in all its forms as a force for good in the world?
Such powerful questions. And as we conclude our deep dive into the symposium, I really encourage you to go back to the text, engage with its ideas, and continue this conversation.
What an incredible journey. Plato's Symposium really is a gift, this philosophical feast that nourishes the mind and the spirit. It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong adventure, and that love, in all its complexity and beauty, can be a guiding light along the way. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.